The only Jubilee I have ever seen was 1883, and there was a strange competition whether Luther was a West German or an East German in that time. The German Democratic Republic now said Luther is no longer the servant of the princes, but the representative of early bourgeois revolution. Looking back at that, it must make us sensitive to the fact that Reformation anniversaries can be tricky points in time. How will the generations that follow judge the events of 2017? Will they say the Lutherans wanted to raise their profiles, costs what it wants, on the costs of others? Will it be seen as an attempt to gain publicity in the secular world for the Christian faith? Will it be grappled with, according to our heritage, critically, constructively, as Protestant tradition can? I am personally convinced there will be no cult about Luther. Many fear that, especially in the Roman Catholic scene. Protestantism in Germany, Lutheranism worldwide are confident enough not to gloss over the dark side of their great role model, and above all, not to limit the Reformation to his persona. I think that's important. It is evident that the Reformation was a movement that's covered several decades. 1917 is just a symbolic date. And that's why the Reformed can celebrate with us. And even the Hussite Church from Czech, I was there, and certainly Jan Hus is part of the Reformation movement. Let's take this as a symbolic date. And certainly the Reformation was driven by many people. Martin Luther is just the symbolic figure, but I would say he is indeed the symbolic figure. Some historians now say he's just a figure alongside. That's not true, I think, and as I read history, it was not in his times. This symbolic meaning is demonstrated for me beautifully in an altar piece by the Italian artist Gabriele Mucchi. If you ever come to Berlin, I hope many of you do, in Spandau Altstarken, there's this little church, and there you have this huge, it's this way around, and you have in the middle, you have the cross, and under the cross are gathered 12 historical figures who played an important role in the 16th century. And they have renewed not only our church, but also our view to the world, and that's why I'll name that. Nicolaus Copernicus, Ulrich Zwingli, Johann Calvin, Ignatius von Loyola, him as well, Thomas More, Katharina von Bora, Martin Luther, Thomas Münzer, Johannes Bugenhagen, Philipp Melanchthon, Lukas Cranach, and Erasmus from Rotterdam. I think that's a splendid symbol of how I see the Reformation movement, a widespread movement with an enormous breakthrough of thought. And I find it moving that they are all assembled under the cross. So that's particularly important as a special envoy. I don't want to be a Luther envoy, but an envoy of the Reformation. We must make clear it was a diverse movement that changed state and church, and is still having effects until today. So first point, it will be important to be open to a critical look back and to appreciate the Reformation as overall event, especially in times of rising nationalism. Second point, ecumenism. It's the first anniversary following about 100 years of ecumenical movement. The churches of the Reformation regard themselves, and for me that's always important in those debates, not as a new church that it was invented in the 16th century, but the inheritors of the ancient church. Luther said that in Widerhans Worst 1541, and therefore it's a common history we have with the Roman Catholic and other churches, but we split up in different branches. We together split up from one church to different churches. The Roman Catholic today, though, is not the same as the church with which Luther and the other reformers came into such deep conflict in the 16th century. For example, a century after Luther, the Council of Trent said farewell to the practice of selling indulgences for money. And in the 20th century, we know Second Vatican Council II introduced the saying of the Mass in the language of the people. Of course, many of the questions raised in the Reformation about papacy, the veneration of the saints, and the understanding of ministerial office still remain in force today. But Martin Luther wanted to reform his own church. and not to split it. So for Protestants to set themselves apart in commemorating the Reformation, that would not make sense. We need an ecumenical dimension. Suffragan Bishop Jaschke of Hamburg has just declared that today Luther's 95 Thesis would be accepted by the Roman Catholic side, and that he shares the criticism on the indulgence praxis. In Augsburg, 1999, the Roman Catholic Church and the Lutheran World Federation signed the joint declaration on the doctrine of justification. They asserted that the condemnations issued by the two churches in the 16th century do not apply to our teachings today. The signing of the joint declaration in Augsburg was an occasion of great movement. I was there, had just been bishop for 2 months, and there was this glimpse of, if this can happen at the end of the 20th century, the 21st century could see us go towards Holy Communion, being able to be celebrated with one another. Okay, I know Dominus Jesus 2000 broke down some of those hopes, but still we can see in this respect that there's a chance to have first time an ecumenical dimension in a Reformation anniversary. And it's crystal clear, I think, that whatever the differences, whatever the nature of our own profiles, there's more that binds us together than that separates us. And in a secularized society, the common witness of Christians is of great significance. The more strongly we speak together, the more we will be heard. I don't have the time to tell you, but we have, I think, the greatest fear that was there in 2008 by the Roman Catholic Church, that this will be a Luther hymn event, is practically gone, and we are now thinking of symbols and signs. For instance, we have a commission on healing of memories to tell the stories. Where did you feel hurt by the other confession? For instance, after 45, many Protestants were settled into Roman Catholic areas, and Roman Catholics from then Eastern Germany were settled in Protestant parts. And there are many stories about that. Can we talk about that? And another idea is what can be a symbolic form? Okay, we will not celebrate the Eucharist together. That's clear, sad, but clear. So why can't we do pilgrimages? The new Pope is very good in symbols. Why can't we go on a pilgrimage? There's a Jan Hus pilgrimage path over the Czech-German border. The Council of the EKD and the Bishops' Conference of Germany, they could go on a path, I don't know, from Rome to Wittenberg. That's too long probably, but something like that, backward, forward. Our parishes could, why not go from the Lutheran cathedral to the Roman Catholic cathedral and then to the Methodists or something like that. We need symbols, and I think pilgrimage is something that doesn't make people afraid, and you go forward. You don't stand there and look backward. That would be a good symbol. Anyway, 2017, that's my second point, will be a Reformation anniversary with an ecumenical dimension, and that's especially important in the secular context. Third, dialogue of religions. It's the first anniversary of the Reformation since the experience of the Holocaust. The anti-Judaism, especially of the late Martin Luther, has set path for a terrible era of the church named after him. It is almost unbearable, I find, to read what Luther wrote in 1543 to put fire on the synagogues and chase out the Jews from your town and city. But the failure of Christians in regard to the Jews in the National Socialist era has triggered a learning process, and that I find is an occasion to celebrate. There's a learning process that after 60 years of Jewish-Christian dialogue, the Evangelical Church in Germany says, whoever attacks Jews attacks us. The reformers themselves said that the church must always be reforming itself. And this is a decisive point which has proved true in the learning process. This also holds true with respect to Muslims. Although Luther may have ranted against Turks, today we live with them in one country. At the same time, we know that Christians in many Islamic countries are persecuted. We need dialogue, and that must be grounded in theology. So third point, for the Reformation anniversary 2017, religious dialogue must prove to be a major concern for Lutheran. It is one of the main challenges for our churches today. Fourth point, concentrating on the solae in a secular age. We celebrate Reformation anniversary in an age of secularization. I sometimes believe the reformers then couldn't imagine the kind of secularization we know today. I reopened in a church service the church where Luther was born and baptized in Eisleben. And in Eisleben today 7% are member of a church. 7. That's incredible. And to be church in such a secular society is very, very different from what our forefathers knew in 1917, let's say. Secularization makes it more difficult to explain what faith means. Many people have turned away, and there's an enormous loss of faith and tradition also in the land of Reformation. Many people have no longer any connection. The churches of the Reformation should confront this challenge head on. After all, they developed from spiritual life and reflection of the Bible and the biblical studies. Both Luther and Zwingli came from a monastery experience when they started to preach. Translating the Bible into German, having the Mass in the language of the people, publishing his writing in German, Luther was deeply concerned to enable people to talk about their faith. And he found a language because he was listening to the man and the woman on the street, to the child playing. It is debatable whether the solae were 4 or 5. I know that in the 20th century some said 6, but I think if you take the traditional 4, they give a clue of how concentrated the Reformation was theologically. Solus Christus. Jesus Christ alone, Christ and not the church, is the authority for the faithful. Sola gratia, by grace alone. God's grace alone justifies your life, not anything you do or achieve. Sola scriptura, script alone. The Bible is the foundation of faith, not church dogma or teaching. And sola fide, by faith alone. Faith is crucial. Once again, nothing that you accomplish, nor the things you may do or may fail to do. So in a secular age, it is important for the churches to link up with the communication skills that are part of our Reformation heritage in order to communicate the faith. If that is made possible, then we really should celebrate. Fifth point, women. It's the first anniversary on which the vast majority of the Protestant churches throughout the world have accepted women in the ordained ministries and as bishops, archbishops even. For Martin Luther, it became clear that baptism is the key sacrament. This is where God promises the human beings divine grace, love, care, and the sense of meaning for life. And all the failures and aberrations of life cannot cancel that. Baptizatus sum. I have been baptized. That's what gave Luther consolation in the great dramas of his life. And so he declared everyone who has emerged from baptism is priest, bishop, pope. And from this he developed respect for women. It only took then 450 years until, but historically that's not that long, until we found out that means they can be ordained as well. But for me it's an important argument when, for instance, the Russian Orthodox Church, when I became head of the Council of the EKD, the Russian Orthodox Church cut the ties with the Evangelical Church in Germany because a woman cannot be the head of the church. And I always said, it's not zeitgeist, and it's not Western zeitgeist, it's theology, it's baptism theology, and I think that's we have to say. Sometimes, I'll go back to the script and be in time, don't worry. Sometimes it makes me wonder that our church is so hesitant to say this is now a nota ecclesia, it's a sign of the churches of the Reformation that they ordain women. Because in Germany we just had a research, and if people are asked what is evangelisch, what is Reformation Church, the second answer they give is they have women. And so from outside it's already seen as a sign of our church.